Have you ever found yourself wondering why women seem to operate on a completely different wavelength? Why they remember details you forgot 5 minutes after they happened? Or why their emotional responses seem so intense and complex? Well, get ready, because what you're about to discover is going to fundamentally change the way you understand female psychology, and honestly, the way you understand human nature itself. So, let's dive deep into the fascinating world of the female mind, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to see women, and maybe yourself, in a completely different light. First up, let's talk about something that's going to blow your mind right off the bat: the anticipation effect in women's brains. Here's the deal. Scientific research has shown that women's neurological systems are uniquely wired to respond more intensely to the anticipation of a reward than to the reward itself. Think about that for a second. The waiting, the build-up, the excitement of what's about to happen, that creates more dopamine activity in a woman's brain than actually getting the thing she's been waiting for. This isn't just about material things like gifts or shopping, although, yeah, that's part of it. This applies to relationships, achievements, experiences, everything. Women are literally hardwired to chase, to build, to create anticipation. It's why the journey often matters more than the destination for many women. It's why planning a vacation can sometimes be as exciting as taking the vacation itself. This is deep neurological programming, and it affects everything from romantic relationships to career goals. Now, let me hit you with something that's going to make you rethink a lot of conversations you've had. Women are significantly more vulnerable to what psychologists call the illusory truth effect. Here's how it works. When a woman hears the same piece of information repeated multiple times, even if that information is completely objectively false, her brain starts to accept it as truth. Before anyone gets defensive, let me be clear. This isn't about intelligence or gullibility. This is about how the female brain has evolved to process social information and recognize patterns. In evolutionary terms, being able to pick up on repeated social cues and internalized community wisdom was a survival mechanism. But in the modern world, it means that repeated exposure to certain messages, whether they're cultural narratives, relationship advice, or even negative self-talk, can become deeply embedded as truth in the female psyche. This is exactly why representation matters so much, why positive messaging is crucial, why the stories women hear about themselves over and over again literally reshape their internal reality. It's not just psychology, it's neuroscience. And listen, if you're already finding this stuff fascinating and you want to dive deeper into human psychology with me, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because we're just scratching the surface here. And what's coming next is going to absolutely transform how you see the world. Let's talk about empathy, because this is where female psychology gets truly extraordinary. Women have significantly more active mirror neurons than men. Now, if you don't know what mirror neurons are, they're basically these specialized brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you watch someone else perform that same action. They're the biological foundation of empathy. For women, these mirror neurons are hyperactive. This means that when you're experiencing an emotion, sadness, joy, anxiety, excitement, a woman's brain is literally mirroring that emotional state internally. She's not just understanding that you're sad. On a neurological level, she's experiencing a version of your sadness herself. This is why emotional contagion is so powerful in female friendships and relationships. Emotions literally spread like wildfire because women's brains are biologically designed to absorb and reflect the emotional states of people around them. This is beautiful, but it's also exhausting. It's why women often need to be more protective of their emotional environments. It's why toxic relationships or negative social circles can be so draining for women. They're not just witnessing negativity, they're neurologically experiencing it. Here's a psychological phenomenon that's going to explain so much behavior you've probably witnessed. Psychological reactance in women. Tell a woman she can't have something, that something is forbidden, that she's not allowed to do something, and watch what happens. Suddenly, that thing becomes 10 times more desirable. This isn't just being contrarian or difficult. Psychological reactance is a deep-seated response to threats against personal freedom and autonomy. And here's the thing, women have been historically told no in countless ways throughout human history. No, you can't do that. No, that's not appropriate. No, that's not for you. So the psychological reactance response is actually amplified in many women. It's a defense mechanism protecting autonomy and self-determination. This shows up in relationships, career choices, personal style, everywhere. The moment a woman feels her freedom is being restricted, there's a powerful internal push to reassert that freedom. Understanding this can transform how you communicate and how you respect boundaries. Now let's dive into something that probably frustrates a lot of people: women's memory. Here's the scientific truth. Women remember emotionally charged events, conversations, and experiences with incredible, sometimes photographic clarity. Far more than neutral events. That argument from 3 years ago, that thoughtless comment you made 6 months back, if it carried emotional weight, her brain tagged it with powerful markers that make it almost impossible to forget. This isn't about holding grudges or being unforgiving. This is pure biology. The female brain creates stronger memory formation through emotional association. When something matters emotionally, whether positively or negatively, it gets encoded in memory with remarkable detail. The context, the words used, the feeling in the moment, all of it gets stored. This is actually an evolutionary advantage. Being able to remember social dynamics, emotional patterns, and relationship histories helped ancestral women navigate complex social structures and protect their children. But in modern relationships, it can feel like women won't let things go. Understanding the biology helps create compassion on both sides. If you're learning something valuable here, show some love to this channel. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your biggest insight so far, and make sure you're subscribed because we're going even deeper. Let's bust a massive myth right now: multitasking. Women are constantly praised for their ability to juggle multiple tasks simultaneously, managing home, career, relationships, social obligations, all at once. And yes, women often do handle more tasks concurrently than men. But here's the scientific truth that nobody talks about. True multitasking of complex activities is neurologically impossible for everyone. What women are actually excellent at is rapid task switching. Their brains can shift between different activities more quickly and smoothly than average. But, and this is crucial, task switching still reduces overall efficiency and increases mental fatigue for everyone. Every time the brain switches from one task to another, there's a cognitive cost. So while women might be better at switching, they're still paying that cognitive price. The cultural expectation that women should be able to do everything at once isn't just unrealistic. It's neurologically ignorant. Understanding this can help women set better boundaries and help everyone around them respect those boundaries. Here's a fascinating insight into judgment and empathy. Women show a strong tendency to judge other people by their actions while judging themselves by their intentions. Let's break this down. When someone else messes up, women tend to focus on what that person did, the observable behavior, the impact, the consequences. But when they themselves make a mistake, they judge based on what they meant to do, what they intended. This creates what psychologists call the empathy gap. Women can be surprisingly hard on others while being simultaneously self-forgiving, or sometimes the reverse. They might extend enormous grace to others while being brutally harsh on themselves. Either way, there's often a disconnect between how intentions and actions are weighted depending on who's being evaluated. Becoming aware of this pattern is transformative. It can help women extend to others the same grace they give themselves, or extend to themselves the same understanding they give others. It's about aligning that internal judgment system. Let's talk about persuasion and influence, because this is where things get really strategic. Women are significantly more likely to comply with large requests if you start with something small first. This is the classic foot in the door technique, and it works particularly well with women because of deep social conditioning around helpfulness, cooperation, and maintaining relational harmony. Here's how it plays out. Someone asks a woman for a small favor, something minor, easy to say yes to. She agrees because it's no big deal, but that small yes creates psychological consistency. She's now established herself as someone who helps this person. So when the bigger request comes, something much more demanding, there's internal pressure to stay consistent with that helpful identity she's already demonstrated. This isn't manipulation when used ethically, it's just understanding social psychology. But it's also important for women to recognize this pattern in themselves and feel empowered to say no, even after saying yes to something small. You're allowed to change your mind, you're allowed to have boundaries. And hey, speaking of saying yes, say yes to subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. We're breaking down human behavior in ways you won't find anywhere else, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming. Eye contact is another fascinating area of female psychology. The right amount of eye contact with a woman creates powerful feelings of connection, trust, intimacy, and emotional resonance. Eye contact triggers oxytocin release, the bonding hormone. It signals attention, respect, and genuine interest. For women who are generally more attuned to nonverbal communication, eye contact carries enormous weight in social interactions. But here's the complicated part. Too much eye contact, or the wrong kind, can trigger threat responses. Prolonged, intense eye contact can feel aggressive, invasive, or even predatory. Women are incredibly sensitive to these distinctions. They can feel the difference between eye contact that says, "I see you and value you," versus eye contact that says, "I'm dominating this interaction." This sensitivity to eye contact is part of women's enhanced ability to read social cues and assess safety in social situations. It's why context matters so much. The same level of eye contact that feels intimate in a one-on-one conversation can feel threatening in a different setting. Now let's address something uncomfortable but important: authority and obedience. Research, including the famous Milgram experiments and subsequent studies, has shown that women are statistically more likely to comply with authority figures even when they internally disagree with what they're being asked to do. This isn't about weakness or lack of independent thought, it's about socialization. From childhood, many women are conditioned to be agreeable, to not make waves, to respect authority, to be good girls. This conditioning runs deep, and it creates internal conflict when women find themselves disagreeing with someone in a position of authority, whether that's a boss, a doctor, a parent, or a partner. The awareness of this pattern is the first step toward breaking it. Women can learn to distinguish between healthy respect and unhealthy compliance. They can practice asserting their own judgment, especially when it contradicts authority. This is crucial for personal safety, professional advancement, and authentic self-expression. Let's talk about the sunk cost fallacy, because this one affects women in profound ways. Here's how it works. Once a woman has invested time, effort, money, or emotional energy into something, a relationship, a career path, a project, a purchase, there's a powerful psychological pull to continue investing, even when it's clearly not working. Even when continuing causes harm. The sunk cost fallacy is the illogical belief that because you've already invested so much, you can't walk away now. I've already put 3 years into this relationship. I've already spent this much money on this business. I've already committed this much emotional energy. And so the investment continues, often escalating, in a desperate attempt to make the past investment worth it. Women experience this intensely, particularly in relationships, because of the way female psychology weights emotional investment and connection. Walking away can feel like admitting failure, wasting time, or proving something negative about yourself. But here's the truth: sunk costs are already gone. The only question that matters is, what's the best decision moving forward from right now? If this is resonating with you, if you're recognizing patterns in yourself or people you know, let me know in the comments. And subscribe so we can keep exploring these mind-blowing psychological insights together. Here's something beautiful. Acts of kindness create powerful neurochemical rewards in women's brains. When a woman performs an act of kindness, whether it's helping a stranger, supporting a friend, volunteering, or just offering a genuine compliment, her brain floods with serotonin and dopamine. These are the feel-good chemicals that create happiness, satisfaction, and well-being. But here's what makes it even more beautiful. The recipient of that kindness also gets a neurochemical boost. And even more fascinating, people who simply witness the act of kindness experience a sympathetic neurological response. Kindness literally creates ripple effects of positive brain chemistry. This is why female friendships often center around mutual support and generosity. It's why women-dominated spaces often emphasize care and community. It's not cultural conditioning alone. It's biology reinforcing and rewarding pro-social behavior. Women's brains are literally wired to feel good when they make others feel good. Now, let's address stress because this is critical. Stress affects women's cognitive function in specific ways. Under high stress or perceived threat, the female brain narrows its focus. Creative thinking diminishes. Problem solving becomes more rigid and less innovative. The stress response literally constricts cognitive flexibility. But in relaxed, safe environments where women feel secure and supported, that's when cognitive magic happens. The brain expands its associative networks, creative connections flourish, innovative thinking explodes. Women in psychologically safe spaces consistently outperform stressed women by massive margins. This has huge implications for work environments, relationships, and personal development. If you want to see a woman at her cognitive best, create safety, not pressure. Create support, not stress. The difference in output and innovation is staggering. Social conformity is real, and women experience it with particular intensity. The pressure to agree with the group, to not stand out, to go along with consensus, even when you privately believe the group is wrong. This is powerful social psychology. Women have been socialized across cultures and throughout history to prioritize social harmony, to be peacemakers, to avoid conflict. This creates strong conformity pressure. Speaking up against group consensus can feel socially dangerous, triggering fears of rejection, isolation, or social punishment. But here's what's important. Conformity isn't inherently bad. Social cohesion has evolutionary value. The problem arises when conformity overrides personal truth, when women suppress their own knowledge, intuition, or values to maintain group acceptance. Finding the balance between social cooperation and authentic self-expression is one of the great challenges of female psychology. We're almost at the end, but before we wrap up, make sure you're subscribed and you've hit that notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next video in this series. Color psychology affects women in fascinating and measurable ways. Red, for instance, increases alertness in women and can trigger responses ranging from mild aggression to attraction, depending on context. There's a reason red is associated with power, passion, and warning. It genuinely affects female neurology. Meanwhile, green and blue create calming, focusing effects on female cognition. These colors reduce stress hormones and increase concentration. This is why wellness spaces, spas, and healthcare facilities targeting women are overwhelmingly decorated in these color palettes. It's not just aesthetic preference, it's neurological response. Understanding color psychology can help women design their environments for optimal mental states, whether that's productivity, creativity, relaxation, or energy. Here's a truth about motivation that explains a lot of behavior. Women respond more strongly to immediate short-term rewards than to distant, long-term benefits, even when logic clearly indicates the long-term option is better. This isn't short-sightedness or poor planning. This is how the human reward system is fundamentally wired, and women experience it acutely. Present rewards feel real, tangible, certain. Future rewards feel abstract, uncertain, risky. The neurological reward response is always stronger for immediate gratification. This is why starting a new diet tomorrow feels easier than starting today. Why spending money now feels better than saving for later, even when you know saving is smarter. Understanding this about yourself creates the opportunity to build systems and structures that work with your neurology rather than against it. It's about designing your environment and choices to make long-term rewards feel more immediate. Negativity bias is stronger in women than in men on average. A negative experience, a criticism, a conflict, a disappointment will mentally and emotionally outweigh a positive experience of equal objective intensity. One harsh word can overshadow 10 compliments. One failure can eclipse multiple successes. This isn't pessimism or emotional weakness. This is evolutionary psychology. Being more attuned to threats, dangers, and negative outcomes was survival programming for ancestral women. Remembering what went wrong, who was dangerous, what situations led to harm, this vigilance kept families alive. But in modern life, negativity bias can distort perception and damage well-being. Understanding this tendency allows women to consciously counterbalance it, actively practicing gratitude, deliberately focusing on positive experiences, intentionally reframing negative events. Stories captivate the female brain in ways that pure data simply cannot match. When women hear narratives, real stories with characters, conflict, emotion, and resolution, their neural engagement skyrockets compared to hearing plain facts or statistics. This is why storytelling is such a powerful communication tool with women. Stories create emotional resonance, they activate empathy, they make abstract concepts concrete and memorable. The female brain is wired to learn through narrative because stories encode social information, relationship dynamics, and practical wisdom in ways that are easier to remember and apply. This is also why women often communicate through stories rather than direct statements. It's not being indirect, it's how their brains process and share information most effectively. Loss aversion is a powerful force in female decision-making. Women are significantly more motivated to avoid losing something they have than to gain something of equal value. The pain of loss is psychologically stronger than the pleasure of equivalent gain. This shows up everywhere, staying in an unhappy relationship to avoid the loss of time invested, keeping a job you hate to avoid losing security, not pursuing opportunities because of fear of losing current stability. Loss aversion drives countless decisions unconsciously. Understanding this tendency allows for more conscious choice. Sometimes the fear of loss is protecting you from genuine risk, but often it's preventing growth, change, and the pursuit of something better. Learning to distinguish between the two is crucial. And here's the final insight that ties everything together, the one truth that matters more than all the others combined. Women will remember how you made them feel long after they've forgotten every word you said and every action you took. Emotional resonance is the lasting imprint. The feeling becomes the memory. This is why relationships are built on emotional connection rather than logical compatibility alone. Why a thoughtless comment can damage a relationship more than you'd expect. Why a moment of genuine care can create loyalty that lasts years. The emotional experience is what gets encoded deeply in female memory and shapes future interactions. So there you have it, a deep dive into the psychological facts about women that literally reshape how we understand the female mind, relationships, and human nature itself. If this video opened your eyes, expanded your understanding, or gave you insights you can actually use in your life, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash that like button, turn on notifications so you never miss a video, and drop a comment telling me which psychological fact surprised you the most. I read every single comment, and your engagement helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear this stuff. I'll see you in the next video where we go even deeper into human psychology. Until then, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep growing.